copies too, though. If you guys like it. If you don't, don't take the copies.
So anyway, I would say, I mean, this is a movie that's way out of my comfort zone. Something that I just had an opportunity at the time. I was free, and the script made its way in front of me, and it was eye-opening, to say the least. It was engaging, and it was something that I was excited to be a part of, and I thought that the movie actually came out pretty true to the script. I thought it was a good representation, and I just think that everything that's happened and where this thing has wound up is a testament to what you can do if you don't give up and you stick with things, and that's pretty much it.
Well, as Cory said, I did a lot of the music, but I feel like everything that was done there was done because I was inspired to write, and I was inspired because of these guys and everyone, all the actors and that worked in the film, and the other musicians that I worked with. So it was just I felt like it was very sort of easy to do. The hard part was just finding time, to do it with a little kid and all that stuff. But again, like Mitch says, we kept going. Everybody just kept going, and it kind of all took longer than we thought, but at the same time, it all seemed to sync up in this really kind of cool cosmic way. Like the music that I had shelved, that I thought was just not ever going to see the light of day again, turned out to be perfect for certain scenes. So it came back, and I can talk about those specific scenes if anyone asks about them or remembers them. But it was kind of magical how it all kind of came together.
So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll start with you, because you're I also wanted to thank the audience, except for, I think he left. I was going to say, except for the guy that was on his cell phone the whole fucking time. That shit drives me nuts. I was in the projection booth and somebody's on their cell phone, tweeting or something the whole time. It's like, you just
We're saying how awesome it is. I'm watching this great movie.
I hope it wasn't you. Oh, if it was you, I'm fucking sorry, man. We're very, if you guys get the DVD or watch it, we're very honest in our commentaries and interviews, and I don't know, I just feel like that's the way we should treat filmmaking. I want to see more films. I guess more videos. I want to see more movies, and I want people to be honest with it, and I want people to do what they want to do. I don't want to just see the same thing over and over again. So I really I don't know, I feel like, a lot of times even at film school for the students here, a lot of times people don't take advantage of coming out to these screenings, and it's like, I'm doing a lot better now. I got really good management. Thanks, guys. And hopefully things are going really well, and it's like I still want to go to anytime I have an opportunity to go to somebody that's just doing things that I'm not doing and talk to them, because you get to learn so much. So thanks so much for coming, and yeah, let's open it up to.
So I have two questions. The first is, what was the subject material? Where did the script come from? Who wrote it? How did that process go, from a writing perspective? And then the second question is, I noticed at the end of the credits, you mentioned that, it said, thanks to everybody who stuck around and the people who didn't flake out. Can you describe that experience of having people flake out on you? Because as a young filmmaker, that happens all the fucking time.
Yeah. I guess that's my question. I wrote it. I just didn't like school very much. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I actually like Atlanta, and I grew up outside of it, and I absolutely fucking hated middle school and the first high school that I went to. What I really wanted to portray with this is I don't want those kids to be good guys. I don't feel like sorry about that. I don't feel like they come across as completely likable, and they're not really supposed to. I just feel like when you're in those areas, kids are going to be jerks no matter what. Kids are assholes, and there's cliques. And when I was in school, certain teachers would kind of get behind certain cliques, and it was almost like teachers and parents and certain authority figures would actually help other groups pick on other kids. And to me, a lot of the problem with this is that it's not the students as much as the faculty that's kind of like helping these certain groups of kids egg on other groups. And I remember just fighting so much, and if somebody else, I think there's a line in the movie, but like if somebody did something, it was like a slap on the wrist, and if our group did it, we got like punched in the face. And I got asked to leave high school. And when I went to the school I went to after I got asked to leave the main one, it was just a totally different experience. And I ended up doing really well there. And I know things can be better. So it's just that kind of, it's like all of a sudden I get to a place where kids are like stealing cars and they're driving them to school. And, it was a much rougher environment, but at the same time, like academically, it was easier, so much easier for me to excel because the teachers were just kind of like a fair across the board to everybody. And, that was basically where that came from. I forget, what was the second question?
The second question was about flakiness in student films.
We actually went to a city to shoot, and I'm gonna have to just throw these. They'll just stay there. No, we actually were gonna shoot this in Atlanta. I wanted to shoot this in the South. We had like an entire crew, we had a cast, and we had no money, and Atlanta's becoming a bigger film city now. But at the time, I would hire somebody to be like, look, we can't pay, we're not paying the actors, we're not paying. And you would have like actresses be like, oh, okay, we're doing the sex scene, like where's, I'm gonna have a body double, right? And you're like, no, like I'm sorry, but like we can't afford a body double. And it's like, you signed this contract, and you'd have guys asking, so we had people in that instance. It made it very hard to shoot in Atlanta at that time. So I had this crew of people I really liked, but there was a lot of stuff like that happening that caused us to move back to Los Angeles. And when we moved back to LA, we had huge stuff like that happen too. We actually had our DP quit 3 days before the shoot. I don't want to mention any names, Todd Kirshner. And he was one of the few people in my life I ever ended up like hating. We were good friends. He had even like been to like my family's house. We were going to shoot this movie, and a couple days before the shoot, he starts holding us hostage and saying like he wants all this money, and he said he wanted to have a masseuse on the set.
Where is he now?
He's probably doing some like Steadicam work on like Telemundo videos, what we were doing back in the day, anyways. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but. He and I remember, I see the Joes here, I just noticed that, but Joseph Vasquez was a guy that went to school. LA Film School was like almost all the people that worked on that movie. And, he's like, what are you doing? Like, we can't lose our DP 3 days. And I'm like, whoever's going to shoot this with 3 days notice is the exact guy we want. And I called Brandon Trost, who I don't know if you guys, I think he's kind of like a legend at the film school. He's blown up. He shot Crank 2 High Voltage. He was the DP for Halloween 2. He just shot Ghost Rider 2 with Nick Cage. He did MacGruber. He sent me a text apologizing he couldn't be here because he's in Boston shooting the new Adam Sandler movie. Wow. And I called him and I was like, we got this feature in 3 days, and he's like, there's no way I'm shooting a movie in 3 days. He's like, and I was like, whoa, would you look at the script? And he's like, I'd have to love this script. So it was a little bit before you could email things that big. So I handed him the script. I went over to his house and he called me in 2 hours and he's like, when do you want to meet? And I was like, awesome, And we literally just spent 3 days going over everything. And, he was willing to shoot things that most DPs would never do. I wanted, every time we had a kid, we don't have one close-up until the third act of the movie of one of the main characters. And I wanted to try a lot of things because we didn't have money to like move the camera. We didn't have money to do a lot of the things you usually see. So we just wanted to try a lot. And I said that every time I had a kid in the first 2 acts, I wanted an adult to impose their frame. And he goes, why don't we do that? And on top of that, why don't I frame everything like improperly? Why don't I like make it so that it's almost like the framing's wrong, so that it looks like it's messed up and incorrect? And to have a DP say like, why don't I screw up on purpose? It is like totally serving the story. You know what I mean? And like when somebody like that's really successful, like you've got to be happy because it's like he's not like I need to make my work look good. He's like let's make the movie good. So yeah, those are the kind of things and the flaking out. But it ends up making for a better movie because you don't want to work with those guys. You don't want to work with those people anyways.
I'll have to add that in the post-production we had to redo the sound mix as well.
Oh, let's not bring up those people.
That was a setback to say the least.
Ty Higgins.
Also, too, I guess another thing with lots, especially a lot of filmmakers, want to know how the project got launched, financial backing, and then distribution and stuff. These are things we need to think about, especially, upon graduation and everything else, because these are things we're going to have to face. We talked briefly about it in the lobby and stuff, so if you want to share stuff like that, that'd be great, because, we need to learn stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, sad to say on this one, I literally just bugged my family and spent every dime I had, and I'm bankrupt. Not kidding. And, I mean, it's just anything you can. I mean, what's so great nowadays is that you can, and I'm not saying that it's not a large amount of money, but you can shoot a movie for $10,000, and, you can hunt down $10,000. It's hard, but we live in a country where, like, you can hunt that down, and, that's literally on that end, that's how we got it done. As far as distribution, it's the same thing. It's like you just got to find people that believe in you, believe in what you're doing. I was lucky enough to have somebody like Mitch, who ends up being a producer. He worked on the movie more than anybody that isn't me for years, and I think he was just hated anytime he got a call from me because it was something else he had to do. But we ended up finding a sales agent, and it was a guy that really believed in it, and we all just literally called, with a couple places, we ended up calling them and just bugging them constantly. And the guys that ended up buying the film, I didn't talk to them, the sales agent did. And the first thing they said to us on the phone was like, we don't know how we're going to sell your movie once we talked to them. And they'd already bought it. And we were like, well, that was cool. Why'd you buy it, And they're like, well, we really like what you guys are doing. And we think that we might be able to get word of mouth, and maybe we can make this a cult type movie. And we've already killed what they thought for sales again in kind of the first week. And that's just like a testament to guys like Mitch and Kobe. And they said that also they want to be involved in whatever we do next. And it's like, if you really put love into it, it's like there's people that are going to see that.
I think one of the advantages you had to distribution was having all of your music cleared and out the door, and most original. Yeah, there's a couple of hurdles to overcome there, but I think that definitely played a factor.
Yeah, that is. I'm glad he brought it up. I mean, it's huge, and we also learned it never hurts to ask. We have I don't know how many people are familiar with them, but They Might Be Giants are a really huge band, and they sell a lot of commercial licensing music and stuff like that. And I shot the movie with guys singing along to a song of theirs, and it's actually an album that won a Grammy for Best Kids Album of the Year. And it's the scene when the kid walks in on his dad masturbating to his mom, jerking off, and he goes back to the car, and he takes acid, and then they put on a song to cheer him up. And I literally called the band, and they're like, well, how'd you get our number? And I'm like, well, and then they're like, well, it sounds interesting. I'm like, I'm a big fan, and da-da-da. And they're like, well, when do you want to use it? And I'm like, well, this guy's jerking off to his son. And they're like, they were like, well, let's talk about it. We'll call you back. And literally, I got a call 2 days later, and they're like, go ahead. And I remember calling Kobe, and I was like, hey, man, They Might Be Giants, and we could use that song. It's like...
That was awesome, because I was going to have to go through and make something that was, where do they make balloons? You could see their mouth going, so I was going to have to sync it up and make it, we are such buffoons, what was I going to do to replace that? So,
We did put something in there, though. We had an alternate cut of that scene very late in the run, just in the last couple of years, just in case. I don't remember what it was, but it would have played. I remember we were like, it's not the greatest, but I can live with it. But
and it was the last song, and they gave us the go-ahead.
Yeah, they actually even put us up on their, the bassist put us up on his website, which was totally cool. It's like, They Might Be Giants, win another Grammy. Cory Cataldo's CD, DVD comes out May 24th. And it's like, to them that's nothing, but to us that's 200,000 people looking at a website. It's like, I usually, again, if you just come out to stuff and make friends with guys and tell people you're fans of that you're a fan. And, so many people are like, don't act like fans, or they want to act cool. And I just keep finding again and again that people appreciate you telling them that they like their stuff. And they're just willing to help you out,
$50 doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, Kobe, tell them about the $50. This is the most important thing about guerrilla filmmaking that I ever learned. And I learned it really late because of him.
Telling somebody you'll give them $50 or $100, depending on who they are, instead of nothing, makes them feel accountable and gets them inspired, because they might want the $50 or $100, and it just makes things happen.
Even guys, it sounds silly, but there's guys that we know that we're making mid 6 figures, And we asked favors, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll get to it. And I'll be like, look, I really need it in a week, and I know this is nothing to you, man, but like, felt like, you know, here, and I'd like hand them $50. And then they're like, all right, man, I'll do it in a week. and in one case, a guy that actually came out of the film school, he's a really big trailer editor now, and his name's Nick Davis. If you guys get a chance to check out his stuff, he cut all the promos for The Pacific on HBO. He's done some larger things. He cuts trailers. And he did our trailer for us, and with him, he felt bad about taking the $50. So he ended up even like not taking my $50. But he did it in like 3 days. Yeah, he like fit the deadline. He's like, I'm not going to take your $50. You know, like.
I didn't, firsthand experience the challenges of trying to get it distributed and all that, but I do think that also it's really important to be obsessively good at what you're doing, because Cory being really adamant about how he wanted his film done and getting that done got Mitch inspired to do a great job editing it, which got me inspired to do a great job filming it, or if I what did I do again? Scoring the movie, and it just kind of goes on like that, and then it inspires someone to want to distribute it, and so on and so forth. So.
I can't see. I'm sorry to the people in the back. I don't know. Is there somebody back there? I'll go that way, please. You.
Okay. I just want to say that was a great film. The acting, like if the acting wasn't as good as it would have definitely not put the movie where it was. So kudos to you there for casting.
There are some of the actors in the house.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying that because me and Gary are BFFs. What I wanted to ask you though is like I can imagine reading the script and just kind of picturing the story in your head as you're reading it. Did you try to sell it to like, huge people and get money?
I was actually, they had this thing called the Feature Development Program at the LA Film School, and it was an awesome program. I actually wish, hint to anyone in the room, I wish it would be great if it still existed. And we went through that, and we made a short film to try to raise financing for it. And we ran into some really weird hurdles with the script, and it was kind of the first time I learned that. I'm learning it again now with the stuff I've already written. I actually feel like, I probably shouldn't say this, but that the script's a lot better than the movie. There's scenes I couldn't shoot, there's pacing issues, and it's literally because we had to stretch scenes out just so that we would have a feature-length film, because there was things we couldn't shoot because we ran out of money, and we ran into a lot of issues with that. And with the script, we got it to, I remember we got it to New Image was one of the places, and it was probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. I think I was 18 at the time, 18 or 19. And they loved the script so much that they actually gave me the coverage, and they blacked out the kid's name, but it sounded like an advertisement. They're like, we can't make a movie like this, but why don't you, but we'd love to look at anything if you have any action or any suspense. And, I was like, okay, great. Too bad I don't make action or suspense. And I just kind of walked away. Not thinking that oh crap, they were telling me that and that company's MO is kind of to get new writers and pay them no money. And, I probably could have got something done. And then at the same token, we shoot this short film, and we had a scout from ICM that really liked it. And, they sent a messenger to come get the script, and, it was a really rough script, and people liked it, but it was, I guess I got a year later, I had the privilege of seeing the coverage, and they were like, this is like teen exploitation, and I think they thought I was like a rapist, and it was and the script was very, I think was a little more vulgar than this, there was times, we did a table read that people walked out of, and, we always lose some people, and that's my fault, but you got to do what you want to do, and it's just, I don't know how to tell you, I mean, it's like when you're writing a script, you got to just, I feel like you have to write what's you, but, and I think he would say that same thing with music, you just kind of got to do what's you. And I would just say that there's certain people there's certain kind of projects you got to know where you're going to go with them. And right now, there's things we're working on, and there's something I have my managers taking to studios, and then there's something that I know they're not going to, there's no point. I'm taking it to people individually and getting money. It's like, Fox is never going to make a road trip movie about, two teenagers that run away and are on a trip funded by a pedophile that's a comedy, you know, like.
That's kind of like a 3-in-1 question. How many pages was the script? How long did it take you? And how many drafts did you recite?
Pass. No, man, I think the script was probably about 100 pages. I really don't know how many drafts. I had a big help. I don't know how many of the people here are actual students, but Linda Cowgill was like a godsend for me. She's like, she'll be like structure. I mean, like I hated it, but at the same time, I feel like I'm a very good writer now, and I would not be if it wasn't for her. You guys just listen to her. If you have the chance to talk to her in class, she can teach you things about structure and how to actually put the story together. So I had probably done 1 or 2 drafts, thought it was a lot better than it was, met Linda, heard that it wasn't, and then she really taught me how to like go through and make sure there was action, and really taught me to learn structure, and I still mess with it all the time, but now at least I know it, and yeah, a lot of drafts, but being at this school was super, super helpful in that regard. I think she's still here, right? I'm guessing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how long did it take you to go through the whole process of, until you finally want to hand it in to the company that you sold it to?
I mean, years. I think 6 years, 5 years.
How long exactly writing?
Writing. I honestly, it was a while ago. I'm sorry, I really can't answer the question. I just don't remember. Like, I drank a lot back in the day. And like,
So if you count the hangover time and...
well, I mean, I was just drunk, right? I mean, that's what I used to do. It was actually hard for me when I quit drinking to write. I thought that that's what I needed to write. I would just get drunk for like a week, and then I'd wake up and I'd have a script, and then I'd spend like a sober day like correcting the spelling. But I don't do that now.
The LA Film School does not endorse.
What would you have done differently if you had a bigger budget?
Man, I kind of don't want. I almost don't want to answer it, but I will. We had to make a decision very early on with production design. There's a lot of things I would change, but the first day I realized that we didn't have the stuff we needed to make to do the sets the way I wanted to do them. Like we shot a movie about these high school kids being in high school, and we never even had a high school. There's like scenes where you're in a principal's office and there's absolutely no computer, there's no anything, there's no desk, there's no pens. So what we did was, because we weren't going to have anything, we decided let's have nothing on purpose, and it'll like aesthetically look like a choice. And so it was a choice, but it was a forced choice. And I would take that back. I would also probably shoot on something other than mini DV. Not that I'm against it, but it just, it gives you, I would have had a much better quality look to it, like a much more professional. I mean, those are the biggest things I would have changed.
I got a question. In your own head, obviously you have to compromise. How did you get over that? Knowing that you weren't going to have your perfect shot or your perfect environment. How did you get past that?
Well, I mean, a lot of it, like, I'm lucky in the sense that, like, I don't like a lot of camera movement, and, at the time, I remember, I'm not saying, Steven Soderbergh is an awesome filmmaker, but at the time, it was like, everybody was, like, shaking the camera, and let's, like, use a bunch of close-ups, and I really like the story to tell itself. I really like to leave the camera still. I really like guys like David Cronenberg, that when you make a move, the move's powerful, and everybody has different schools of thought, but that's really my style, so I didn't have to compromise too much, because that's really what I want to do anyways. I mean, if I have $20 million, it's going to be a lot of sitting there, and when the camera moves, you're going to feel it, and when you get a close-up, you're going to notice, and that's just what I like to do. And then I like to do some strange stuff with editing. I think you can speak to we had fun with those montages, because like everybody on set, and even to when we started shooting them, was like, why are you shooting these shots? Like, how is this going to work? And I'm like, we're going to move in this picture, and then 5 pictures will be on at the same time, and then one will be dominant, and another one will drop out, and, I ended up having I guess we drew a diagram. And I don't know if you want to talk about that, but stuff like that was the the biggest difficulty.
Well, I mean, that was actually pretty well choreographed and planned. That wasn't, I don't think you had to compromise too much on those montages. They were...
Well, I felt like I guess I did shooting-wise, and getting the actual shots.
There was that, well, I think the, Cory in the killing Jevin's parents at the end,
Yeah.
is a very long, dissolvey, kind of like two one-shots, just pasted on top of each other, and we just keep going back and forth. I think that might have been a place where you didn't get everything that you wanted.
Yeah, not only that, I was just flat wrong. I shot something, somebody, actually Iris Green over here at the film school, was telling me about how she was watching tape from like Columbine, and how she was terrified watching these kids shoot these guns in a school, and she closed her eyes, and it was even more terrifying when she closed her eyes to hear these kids yelling, and so she opened her eyes back up. So I was like, man, this scene where they kill Jevin's parents, I don't have a lot of money. I want to shoot it so that you can't see it. I just want to hear it. So I'm going to put them off in the distance. I'm going to put a car on a dashboard, and we're just going to hear this horrible thing happen. And we originally played it with no dissolves and just like all the way through with this music, and it just ran really long, and it just didn't work like that at all. And we ended up having to dissolve it up and try some different things. We didn't shoot anything else. So I don't know if it was a compromise as much. It's just like it was like a really big mistake. And I'm happy with what we ended up getting. But and I think Kobe's song that I actually fought him on at that scene actually worked really well and helped made the whole thing and kind of brought it home and brought it back to the sound design. And it was the one thing too, I told him he was wrong about the song and I'd like something new, and he sent me another pass and he had the same song in it. And he was just like, I'm not changing it. You want to
Well, I think there was two things going on. One was, the fact that Cory also had other music when he had made the film that was scratch tracks to give a feel for tone. So he had a lot of stuff in his head already. And when I essentially found that song, the first thing I did was go through and put the songs in place in the movie, because songs are already finished, and I was going to compose around it. So I was seeing what fit and what worked. And I was just consistently surprised at how many things I had done, or that I had done with friends, or like I was saying, that was 10 years old, that not only fit the tone of the movie, but changed right at the moments. I mean, it's like, I didn't even make it, or, it's like something else, I don't want to get into, this, but I guess I am, but like, it felt to me like, higher power type, divine intervention, like this was made 10 years ago, and here it is, it's been waiting to kind of just get plopped onto this film. And that song was actually, I broke up with a girlfriend, and felt like I was losing a best friend, and I was really pissed off about the situation and at her, and so I was really angry and really sad, and I made that song, and then it was the same emotion that Cory was feeling.
He killed a guy.
Well, his friend was dead, and he's pissed off at the, and I also killed my husband. I just couldn't, it was like, it worked, and I was like, Cory, man, I don't want to, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know how I can take the song out. Like, it's just supposed to be there,
And then we put it in and we get calls that like, man, my favorite song in the whole movie is when like he's going to kill Jevin's parents. And, I was just like, God, I'm totally wrong, Anyway.
For the editor, did you use Final Cut Pro or Avid?
Final Cut Pro in my apartment. That was our editing room for a good solid 3 or 4 months, I'd say. There were like a couple of days with walking outside, out even in the hallway. Definitely cooped up in the apartment, very much a Final Cut Pro project.
Literally sleeping on the floor. And he actually has no sense of smell, so sometimes his apartment gets all like funky. He's married now.
It's not actually true, is it?
You don't have to.
We'll talk about that.
So is this film going to be shown at, any other, like any festivals at all? Or
No, one of the biggest mistakes I made, actually, I don't know that we would have gotten in any of the bigger festivals. It's kind of, obviously, it's a weird movie. It's lower production value. in some senses. But, you know, I didn't know anything about what to do when you finish a movie. And that's one of my biggest regrets. Like, there's things that took forever just because I didn't know what to do at all. And, you know, I didn't know that to get into Sundance or to get into Toronto or one of those big festivals, you have to premiere there. They don't want anything, unless it's been at one of the other major ones, if it hasn't premiered there. So the first thing I did was just like, I want to show people this movie as soon as possible. So I just like submitted it to a bunch of festivals, and I got into a bunch of little festivals, like, you know, like Cleveland Independent. And I didn't even tell them it was premiering there, I just showed it there. And then it's like, well, it's showed at all these places, and then there's this press, and then no one will touch you, and then it's kind of like, oh no, like, what did I do, you know, I didn't even get to see, you know, and that's, it's not that you would have made it, it's just that you would have liked to see, you know, and it's like, I completely made a mistake, and, you know, it's the kind of stuff you only learn by doing, but, you know, stuff like making sure you have all the actors sign paperwork on set, you know, in the 2 seconds that'll take you, instead of the like 5 months of hunting them all down, you know, after the fact.
So you just didn't put, you know, all these other, you know, other festivals on in order to present it to the major festivals?
Yeah, I thought that if I went to little festivals first, that like I could use that momentum if like we won awards, and we did, to get into bigger ones, and it's just, that's not the way it goes. So it's like, now that it's on DVD, honestly, I'm done. I heard the public libraries ordered it, so to me that's like the end all of coolness. Like, your taxes just paid for my movie. Yeah, that's hysterical. No, yeah, like Walmart's cool too, but the public library is. I can imagine my grandpa, like, you know, before he passed, going to the library and picking up this movie. You know.
You just mentioned Walmart. Is that going to be an edited version?
No, they don't. As long as something's NC-17, you're okay. As long as something's not NC-17, you're okay. So like, you can basically like make a movie called like, you know, Raper's Delight, and just like rape somebody and beat them for like 50 hours, and not get it rated and sell it anywhere. The problem is like, if you make that movie and you take it to the MPAA, then you can't put it anywhere. So you can't make that movie and put it in a theater. But like, you know, Blockbuster already ordered the movie, and you know, if it was NC-17, they wouldn't touch it, you know. So.
I got a question. Paperwork on set. You know, I've been in some situations where I wish that I would have had contracts, and, you know, just to protect me from liability from equipment. What kind of issues and problems have you had? Have you had anybody say, I'm not doing that, and walk off? And
No comment. No, really, I mean, I can't. No, but yeah, I mean, you have to be really careful with that stuff. I think the guy I always bug about that, I think, is actually here. I don't know if Sean Rodan is still here, but there's a guy here, if he raises his hand, you might want to annoy him with questions later. That guy, he was like an associate producer. He knows all about that. Like, I just call him constantly, and I'm like, I need a contract that lets me do ballet on buildings, you know, at 2 in the morning. And he's like, all right.
Go to lawyers and have a lawyer, or you just kind of have a consensual agreement with your.
No, I mean, we can't, I mean, when you're doing the really low budget stuff, you can't go to lawyers.
Exactly.
I think I have a lawyer now.
Agreement between two people, this is what I'm doing, this is what you're doing, we both agree on that.
No, I mean, you get a contract. Yeah, it's not, you don't just say, like, we're doing this. Like, there's books, and you find ones that people have already used, and, or you talk to a guy like that, and you just find somebody that's done it before, and you just borrow their contract.
Question for the editor. I mean, I see your credentials, and every movie you edited was pretty cool. So what was it like starting off? I mean, like, basically, how'd you get on board? Did you like, you know, Cory get you on this, and then you just kind of throughout the years you started? Like, how did your career evolve?
Well, I'm still a career in progress, and most of the credits I think you're talking about, I'm the assistant editor, not the editor. So still moving up, and it's been a while since I've actually done. You get to, in the job that I'm in, you get to edit, you know, from time to time. You get to pick up scenes or light stuff here and there. So
Light stuff. He just edited something that has like.
I did a lot. I've got a lot of work on the DVD on Bridesmaids when it comes out, whenever that is. That was kind of a nice break. But it's nice making a living too at the same time, and it's nice working on big productions, and that's the goal, is to get there at some point. But what was the question exactly? How did I get involved in this? It was just a mutual friend. Just somebody just got me in touch. I was kind of in between jobs at the time, and the opportunity had presented itself, and read the script, and was just like, whoa.
He doesn't like the movie.
That's a stretch. It's not something I would run out to go see myself, but it's a very powerful movie. It's very effective, I think. And that was what was intriguing at the time, and I don't think I realized we'd still be here after all this time, all the work that was involved. There was a lot of time that it was dropped, and we would come back to it. But it was a big, long job, but it was definitely time well spent. I think it's something that will, help propel my career, and definitely cutting keeps you thinking, keeps you active. So it's good to do that, and hopefully there'll be another movie in my future soon, Cory.
When is the next project coming up, possibly? Or I don't know if you're shooting right now.
No.
And also, what other genres of film will you be filming?
I actually have, it's because of this experience, I have like 3 projects I've written and am working on right now, and it's literally like 3 different budget grades. There's like a high budget, there's a middle budget, and there's like a lower budget like this. There's some people that don't want me to do the lower budget one, which I could probably pull the trigger on now. It's amazing as soon as you get something like this done and distributed. You bring something up in a group, and people are like, oh yeah, we'll give you that. You're trying to raise like 40,000, and you just bring up like, yeah, I could shoot that for about 40, and they're like, oh, you got that last one sold? Like, I'll give you $40,000. And I had that happen with a couple people, and I literally told them, I'm like, well, it's a bad investment. And they're like, yeah, no, you're doing good. Like, things are fine. It sounds like fun. And you're like, where were you like 5 years ago, So it's very frustrating to hold back, but at the same time, I don't know career-wise if it's smart to do something that's at the same exact level. I might want to try something bigger. So I have something in the middle and then something higher. The higher one has to go through, not a production company. It doesn't have to go through a studio, but it needs to go through something like that. And literally, I'm working on all 3. So look out for Without War, 2 Wrong, and Nothing at All. And that would be like, I think that's the order of like high budget to low.
So you're doing this was kind of like I would say drama, but any suspense thrillers, any comedy, any of those 3 that you were currently working on, any of those at all?
I have some comedies that I've actually done, just been hired to write for other people. It's dark comedy. I kind of get into the world I actually have an uplifting thing is the main thing I worked on. It's very weird still, but it's positive. And then I'm just in a better mood lately, I guess. I was really angry when I wrote that, and I kind of have a better outlook on life. So I'm still doing the same thing, and everybody always dies in the end. But now they like die in the end, but other people have better lives. So that's my new MO.
Just one last question. Kind of like a personal question, because I feel like I'm going through the same thing, is I'm in the stages, and I'm sure you probably felt this way, where either you're like, if I don't get this thing sold, I'm going to make it myself. So obviously you took the independent route and did it yourself. Because you just not too long ago just came from this place. Exactly. How did things just kind of jump off once you got this thing sold? Were you like, these fuckers are really calling me and emailing me now and saying they'll do this,
I mean, once it actually sold, things have gone very quick. I think Mitch it's probably weird for all of us. I think I don't even really know how to answer. I mean, we're still in the throes of it. It came out on DVD last week, and we did a lot better than we thought we were going to do. Even for good, there was if you get to this mark, that's really good, and then we got here, and we were like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, we'll find out.
So are you selling all your rights to this here, or a certain percentage?
No, you basically give you make a deal, and I'm not really I'm not gonna talk about what our deal is, but you know, you get like an advance, and then, or not, and then, you get like a percentage of sales based on what you worked out with the distribution company you give it to. And you agree to like a term of how long they have all the rights to it. So, you know, like they have the rights, the company we went with has the rights to our movie for 10 years. So like in another 10 years, if people are still interested in it, like I could sell it to somebody else or, you know, do something like that with it, so.
I got a question. How do you go about approaching these companies for like sponsorship when, you know, you're just getting started, you really don't have anything that would go, you know, streamline or mainline? How do you go about, you know, approaching, you know, Budweiser, Coca-Cola, Pepsi to help bring this together?
We didn't.
You offer them $50.